Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and a few months back, I was fortunate to be offered a review copy of Monty Python's co-curricular medieval reenactment program by my friends at Exalted Funeral. I have already covered this program on my channel, first during a first look live stream, and then via an interview with creator Brian Salaba. The links are over there and in the description below. This, however, is my full review, what I think after reading the book cover to cover and playing in a session myself. So, let's roll it. Before getting started, I want to give a shout out to everyone who has liked, commented, and subscribed to DM Tales. It really helps. You have no idea how much. And I do want to give a special shout out to my Ko-fi contributors who support the channel directly and help me continue making all this wonderful content. If you'd like to support DM Tales, I'd love for you to become a channel member yourself. And if you're not able to do that right now, then consider surfing over to my merch store, link there, description below, and picking up one of my custom DM Tales t-shirts, including this one, which is the I Break Bell Curves design. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get to the review. There are two pieces of excellent advice which set the tone for the way the program is run. First, take things seriously. A character should encounter the situations in the game, even the most ludicrous of them, with the utmost seriousness and dignity. This is, as the rules point out, what makes Monty Python what it is. It's serious people taking themselves seriously in the most silly situations. When players attempt to be funny, it tends to unravel the fiction rather than enhance it. Second, the program insists players describe their actions rather than declare their roles. Now, this is simple for the reenactment program because the game tosses formulas, battle maps, and miniatures out the window in favor of a collaborative narration of events, with the head of light entertainment, that's the program's version of a game master, also called a whole, and the players taking turns describing their actions and responses. A player who says, well, I roll valor, should be told, this tells me nothing. Stop lazing about and exercise your atrophied imagination already. Now, why is this so important? It's because during the program, an excellent narration may provoke the whole to declare, intercourse the dice, in which case the dice are well and truly intercoursed and the character enjoys an automatic success. Really cool. One of the more unique aspects of the program is that the player taking up the role of the head of light entertainment will themselves play a persona. These each change the experience for the players because the wholes are offended by different in-game antics. They possess unique takes on what behaviors should be rewarded and have their own thresholds for smiting an unfortunate player. They will make these preferences known by handing out merits and demerits as they deem fit, or when the roles dictate. More on that in a bit. Each of these personas is drawn from the wider Monty Python canon and includes such luminaries as Ralph the Wonder Llama. This is really cool stuff. The core of each character are their traits. The program has 18 of them, each with two extremes, one at the serious end and the other at the silly. There are 9 steps along this continuum, each represented by a different die. A D20, a D18, a D16, a D14, a D12, a D10, a D8, a D6, and a D4. Please pause for breathing. Okay, so each character has a situation, which is a rough analogy to the classes found in less evolved games. Each of these situations comes with a list of prescribed traits, the starting values which can be assigned to those prescribed traits, a trait to which they are indifferent and no appeal to that trait will ever affect the character. They'll have a starting status for both death and loony, their initial currency, and there are a lot of currencies in this game, and also a spiffing serious ability. Some situations also give the player options to choose their social class, assign a must-have retainer, and a list of professions for their role-playing pleasure. Once a player fills out their prescribed traits and, if they have one, a must-have retainer, they may fill in any blank lines with any traits or retainers they desire. A character may not, however, choose any trait to which they are indifferent, because how would a character use a trait which does not exist in their personal universe? And any trait that's not listed on the character sheet is automatically treated as silly. That means the player will always roll a d4 when it's called for. Now, each trait has a table of accoutrements which is attached to it. These all give a +1 to rolls made for that trait, and many also have an additional bonus or penalty assigned to them as well. A jousting lance, for example, gives an additional +1 to all trait rolls against knights, but animals know what that lance is for, and so anyone carrying one will receive a -1 to all animal husbandry checks. Retainers are valuable because they carry a number of additional accoutrements which they make available to the character. Now, why would you want this instead of more traits which give you better dice to roll? Well, aside from the additional bonuses for rolls, both accoutrements and retainers may actually be sacrificed to stave off bits of death the character receives. Because of this, characters with more retainers, and therefore more accoutrements, tend to stick around a bit longer. To retain a retainer's services, however, a per diem must be paid, or that retainer will abandon the character and leave them with one less slot filled on their sheet. Now, the payment can be anything from a coin to assisting a retainer to witness a romantic scene so they may author a poem about it. And if it's not possible to get them where they can see a romantic scene, they can enact one themselves. That would do in a pinch. It's a kind of a fun role-playing opportunity. And as mentioned, characters also have a status for both death and loony. Each of these has 6 steps. The world of the program is both dangerous and maddening, and when either status is filled, that character is no longer playable. They've either become an X-character or run off into the woods to join a colony of bipedal squirrels. Now, the good news is if that character had a retainer, that retainer then receives an instant promotion. The retainer takes on a situation, the player fleshes out the former background meat shield, and play continues without anyone skipping a beat. It is just a lot of fun. The core mechanic of the game is split into 2 concepts, deeds and tests. A deed is something a character enacts into the world, everything from inviting a grumpy dragon to a cup of tea to lopping the heads off of offending bridesmaids. I would like to point out that that statement in no way, shape, or form is advocating actual violence against bridesmaids, who are the backbone and beating heart of our national wedding-based economy. It is actually a reference to a certain Monty Python film that is about a grail. And if you're watching this video, I assume you already know that, and I'm a little bit annoyed that I'm doing this, and the lawyers really need to get a little bit of a grip about the nature of liability, because it's Monty Python, and everybody knows this scene already. The film's been out for 50 years, for crying out loud. Let's get back to the review. A test is something done to the character, anything from them refuting an argument to blocking the dragon from clamping down on your head when he discovers you are serving them instant tea. Now, what's the difference between the two? Well, aside from the narrative differences, one you're doing, the other is being done to you, which people who are paying attention should already have spotted, you cannot defeat an adversary through tests. You must use deeds in order to overcome them, and adversaries will often have a number which you need to hit, greater than 1. The program refers to conflicts between the party and NPCs as contestations, which includes everything from combat to arguing over who has the better hairstyle. The educational program sees no difference between the two. They have the same impact on the narrative. Now, how do deeds and tests actually work? Well, it's simple. For a deed, once you have narrated your action to the best of your meager abilities, the whole may call for a trait roll if they don't scream intercourse the dice. For a test, the whole will narrate the way that your character's day has been challenged, demand your responding narration back, and then call for a trait roll, unless you have narrated it so well that they don't want to even go through that process. Now, you will pick up the die that you have set for the trait that's been called for, and then you will roll it. As mentioned earlier, if you do not have the trait for that roll, you are silly in it and will roll a d4. The target number is either set by the whole fiat or determined by a die roll. Each adversary has 1 die that they use for all their rolls in the game. If you beat that target number, you succeed. There is, however, some complexity added. Anyone who rolls a 1 spams, which has 2 immediate impacts. First, the whole gives the offending player a demerit. Second, the die type for that trait that was rolled is moved one step towards silly because they've just made a fool of themselves in front of the other players, the NPCs, the whole, and the entire television viewing audience. Anyone who rolls the maximum number on their trait's die struths. This also has two immediate impacts for the player. First, they move that trait one step towards serious. They have shown off their aptitude in front of the players, the NPCs, the whole, and the entire television viewing audience, and they need to be rewarded. Second, they get to roll the new larger die and add that total to the first roll. Players also may chain struths, moving their trait ever further towards serious and racking up huge tracts of numbers. But watch out, because if you roll a 20, as well as any multiple of 20 thereafter, you will receive a demerit from the whole. Now, why is that if you're being so apt at what you're doing? It's because while the program is a serious educational endeavor, no one likes a self-important scene stealer. So accept your demerits with grace and learn your lesson. Oh, and when you struth, you only add in accoutrement modifiers to your rolls after you have rolled all the dice and totaled them. Now, when demerits accumulate, a player runs the risks of beshrew-ment. Each one of the whole personas has their own D30 beshrew-ment table with a host of ways for the narrative to go sideways. A character may have a giant foot come down from heaven, squashing them like a bug and making them no more. The television viewing audience may get the urge to channel surf, shuttling both the party and the whole into something completely different. Or the whole may receive a complaint letter which puts them one step further towards being sacked and replaced by a whole new persona, changing the game up even more. Beshrewments are plain zonkers, and as far as I'm concerned, players should seek them out with utmost haste. Merits are a meta currency which can be spent in two ways. First, if you are the type of player who likes to avoid any sort of random wackiness happening to them, that is to say, a boring one, you may spend your merits to cancel out demerits. In this way, you may hold off the hammer of a beshrewment, as well as avoid any additional fun for the rest of the table, so good for you. Second, a merit may be spent to add a second die to a trait roll. Both dice are rolled, and the preferred result is taken. The game plays fast, wacky, and fun. Monty Python's Cocurricular Medieval Reenactment program looks as though it was picked up from the minds of the people behind Monty Python and dropped into the book. The artwork is wonderful and absurd, with many callbacks to the whole range of Monty Python's canon. New artwork, such as the portraits for the whole personas, they just fit in perfectly. The design language of the book is consistent in that it's completely inconsistent. Each chapter has its own design language. My brain enjoys consistency in the rulebooks I read, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy games like OSE and Shadow Dark or anything put out by Monty Cook Games, because there's just consistency all the way through. But for this game, it feels right that the book is this inconsistent mess of a tome, which looks as though it's been shoved together by a room full of TV executives who were all trying to make their mark on the final product. I have seen products like this. It drives me out of my mind, and for Monty Python, it just fits. The wild design swings also serve as a visual cue for the reader that they have moved into a completely different section of the book. It is terrific. The game is a full-sized book with US letter-sized pages, of which there are 351. There are also 8 pages of helpful tables in the back, including a table of tables, followed by a blank character sheet. The rear end pages display a nice index for the book, while the front end papers display some of the excellent random generators that you can find in those 8 pages at the end of the book. My favorite of these is the thoughtful expression selector, complete with artwork telling you which posture you should take. I really like stuff like that. The book is printed on glossy paper, which does make me sad. It does, however, include a book ribbon, and that cancels out my sadness and leaves me feeling somewhat happy to be holding this book. It's also sewn binding, and it folds open really, really well. The front cover looks as though it could have been a Monty Python movie poster, complete with a role-playing game being crossed out, and no, it isn't spray painted below. The artwork is wraparound, but most of the detail is found on the front cover. The rear cover is left open for a recitation of what's included in the book, as well as several quotes from the Pythons, which will forevermore remain genuine in my headcanon. I mean, the top banner on the rear cover reads, "Will you please stop asking me for a blurb for the back cover of a role-playing game," attributed to Terry Gillingham. It's just amazing, and that forever will be an authentic quote. So if you haven't figured it out by now, I love this game, but I do have a couple points to highlight. First, the wacky dice, they're amazing, but it creates a bit of a roadblock for new players, as most of us don't have those dice in our Dice Goblin bags. And while most of these dice can be found in the extended polyhedral sets used by Dungeon Crawl Classics, that pesky D18 is not. And finding one of those for sale by itself somewhere it's somewhat challenging. This leaves new players needing to pick up the official set from Exalted Funeral, and these dice are presented really well, I'll give them that. They cost $25 before shipping. They're also color-coded to help differentiate between similar looking dice, which is nice because the difference between a D18 and a D16 is kind of hard to spot. But it does offer that barrier for a pickup game with new players unless the GM wants to shell out for a couple of these sets beforehand. That can get expensive, and it's also something I'm considering doing. Second, at some point during play, the table may be forced to play Fetchy La Vache. That requires dice catapults, a backgammon board, and meeples, or a completely separate $120 game. The rules for the game can be downloaded for free, which is nice, but it did leave me feeling like it was almost too completely different. Now, that does not mean that my collection goblin personality doesn't want that $120 set, or that I'm not looking to dig out a backgammon board to bring this game, Fetchy La Vache, to the table during a session. It's just that I think the game would run fine without it, and if there's a chance that I get to run it and I don't have those things, I really don't care. It'll just move fine either way. Those 2 points aside, this is an excellent game which I loved playing and am looking forward to running at a brewery in the next month or two. It's going to be a blast. It's just fun. You can pick up this game at the Exalted Funeral website for $50. And if you like British humor, and Monty Python in particular, this is worth checking out. Coming up, I have begun writing my Tales of Argosa review, and I'll share some thoughts on a nice zine game as well. After that, I've got my unnamed Numenera book to review, as well as Rust and Redemption for Cipher System. I've also read a couple of Numenera novels, which I may share some thoughts at some point in the future on the channel. So, until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone!